Lord, by the strength of thy Holy Spirit, grant us a willingness to place service above personal gain and to respect our obligations of justice in our positions as members of the Council of the Town of Essex.
Okay, welcome everyone. Ask if there's any conflicts of interest amongst the council members with this evening's agenda. No, that's good. Looking for the adoption of the published agenda for Monday, November the 18th, regular council meeting. Councillor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carried. Looking for the adoption of the minutes for Monday, November the 4th, 2013, regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Scott. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. October the 21st, 2013, special council meeting. Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Just before we get to public presentations, I have a pleasant honor to fill everyone in on this evening. On the weekend, we had a long-standing service award presented to our own Morley Bowman for 25 years of service. And I'll get over by Morley and I'll read exactly what it says on this certificate. On behalf of the Government of Ontario, thank you for your outstanding work in helping to build strong communities in Ontario. Congratulations and best wishes for the future. The Honourable Linda Jeffrey, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Morley, on behalf of the Town of Essex and your council colleagues, congratulations. Well deserved, sir. Got about 2 or 3 words to say.
Yeah, it was an honor to receive it. We've had some councillors in the past that have it, and we have the warden of the county is, I believe, 35 years. So in the area, I sort of moved into some pretty nice company. The presentation was done in London at the AMO and the ministries workshop they had last week, and I was able to attend. And one of the keynote speakers there was a John Fennick. He's the mayor for the town of, I guess it's the city of Perth, and he was a guest speaker, and he supplied a book that he's written, and he made a copy available to each municipality. And it really just sort of summarizes some of the things councils do and how they interact with the public with regard to elections and just the day-to-day operation of municipalities. A lot of things we do, some things we are a little different, but it's a good read, especially for councillors. So hopefully everybody will take the opportunity to give it a little read. It takes you a couple hours to go through it, so I think it's well worth it, and just makes you think about what we're doing as municipal councillors.
Thank you very much, Marty.
Good to you, Ron. And,
okay.
So hopefully everybody can get a chance to read it.
For sure. Okay, our first public presentation is Diane DeNova. I didn't see her in attendance, but no. Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to make a point of interest. Diane has respectfully been on the council agenda now, I believe, and I want to make sure we get it right. I think 3 or 4 times now. And council has obviously surrendered opportunity to hear her out. I know she has some concerns, obviously, about the position of council and how council maybe addresses some of her particular issues of interest, but I'm requesting that administration send her a letter that says this is your 3rd time of request to attend council, and for whatever reason, I want to be fair to her, I would love to hear her, but at the same time, the problem with it is the message is all, and people read agendas, right? So they always read the agenda that would suggest from Diane that council is not addressing her issues, and that's probably the furthest thing from the truth you would ever find. So the problem I have with it is constituents who are politically involved read it over and over again each week, or bi-weekly, if you will. It's a reminder to them of what we haven't had the fair opportunity to discuss with her. So I'm requesting that a letter go to her and say she has one more opportunity, or any opportunities will be not denied moving forward. I'm an advocate of allowing people to talk. I'm not an advocate of 3 or 4 times in a row not showing up to voice your opinion.
So that's a motion, Councillor Oates. Need a
I support that as a motion.
seconder. Councillor Scott, discussion. Okay, Deputy Mayor Malash.
Sorry, Your Worship. A little slow at put my hand up. Question to our clerk, and I'm just wondering can we do that as a council? Can we deny someone that wants to come forward from the public regardless of the reason?
Through your worship, I believe council should provide anybody the opportunity who wishes to speak the chance to do so. We were contacted today by Ms. DeNovo stating that she wanted to speak to 2 items only. Now, I'm unaware of the reason why she isn't in attendance. She did indicate today that she would be here.
Thank you.
And I would just like to add that the previous 2 times she didn't show up, she did inform us, I believe, on the weekend that she wouldn't be in attendance, and I have no idea why she isn't here tonight. She could have gotten an accident or anything else, so I don't think it's a good route to go, to tell people we'll give you one more chance, like not knowing what the situation is or anything. I understand Councillor Vogel's frustration, trying to deal with some of the topics that she wants to discuss with us, but I don't know. One of these days maybe she'll come if we give her enough chances. I don't know.
If I could, just one last point of interest to that, is it's not that I don't want to give her an opportunity. I do want to give her an opportunity. Actually, I look forward to the opportunity to have those candid discussions with her. What I'm concerned about is absorbing administrative time. As the clerk had already indicated, again, they surrendered time to that today to talk to her. There's been several notices that Cheryl has to obviously file and put on agendas. It consumes administrative time. And that's all my point is if she wants to come speak to us, then come speak to us. And I'm just asking that a letter would suggest to her that she show up for those, to have those discussions, that's all. Or else, respectfully, don't add it to our agenda and don't be downloading our administration with a lot of work.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councillor Bondi?
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to our clerk. Does a delegation have to reapply for each council meeting?
Through your worship, no, they don't. She would just inform me that she wanted it postponed to a subsequent meeting. If she does contact me tomorrow and state that there's a reason why she couldn't be here tonight and ask that it would come forward at the next meeting, we would do the same thing.
Thank you.
Anything further? Ready for the motion? To the motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion defeated. Thank you. And previously, because of the death in Brenda Dunn's family, she will not be in attendance tonight either. So we have no delegations. So we'll go to, Councillor Bondi.
I was wondering if I may ask of council if they allow Ms. Coulter and Canine Services to speak now to bylaw 1236, because the agenda was published as having delegations for this specific bylaw at this time, and I believe Ms. Coulter came out to answer questions of our delegation, and this would allow them to get on their evenings. If council would, I would like to make a motion.
We move it ahead.
That we move, yes, that we allow Melanie Coulter, the Executive Director from the Humane Society, to speak, to address council, and Dave Walsh from Canine Services, our dog catcher, to address council as well.
I'll support that.
Councillor Vokes supports moving bylaw number 1236, which is 11A, up to the present time. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Mrs. Coulter? Ms. Coulter? Thank you. And we're going to deal with bylaw number 1236, being a bylaw to regulate, license, and control animals within the municipal boundaries of the town of Essex.
Thank you very much. Council, I know, has already heard a presentation in support of this bylaw from the Humane Society, so I did just want to address a couple of the questions that had come up. And one earlier was regarding the difference between crating and tethering. And I think there's a few key differences in mind. Certainly, I wouldn't be opposed to any bylaw that limits crating for 12 hours a day. But there is a difference. Most dogs that are trained to go in a crate are trained to see their crate as a position of safety. So that's their safe place where they can get away and go for quiet. And dogs will go to their crate on their own, and they will be comfortable there because they know that's their place. They can go and decompress and be quiet and not be bothered. Whereas dogs on chains that's not their position of safety. That's basically the position they're limited to. In a lot of cases, if a dog is on a chain for 12 hours or more, that tends to be one of their only places they're limited to. The safety issue also goes the other way in terms of community safety, and Donna mentioned that when she was speaking earlier, that community safety is a big issue with tethering bylaws, and certainly one of the big reasons why tethering bylaws are so common in states and municipalities in the U.S. If you've got a dog that's in a crate and you've got kids in the household and their kids have friends over, it's fairly easy to teach your children, don't touch the dog when he's in the crate. That's a fairly limited thing where you can say when the dog's in the crate, you don't go in the crate, you leave the dog alone. Whereas if you've got a backyard and you've got a shared backyard with 3 neighbors and your dog's on a chain, kids might not necessarily know how far that chain can go. And kids might not necessarily even understand how far the chain can go, and chain dogs, as Donna mentioned earlier, are more likely to, that's when kids are getting bitten. And the attacks, the fatal attacks that are happening, almost 30% of the fatal attacks in the U.S. that happened over the past 25 years were dogs on chains or dogs that have recently broke off chains. So it is a safety issue where you don't have that safety issue inside a residence. But the final factor, which is obviously of concern to me being from the Humane Society, is that what happens during the rest of the time. And if, with all due respect to the Deputy Mayor, if I had to come back as a dog, I would much prefer to come back as a dog who was crated rather than a dog who was on a chain. And the main reason is because if you're on a chain, you're out in negative weather, you're out in cold weather and hot weather, and sure, you may have a dog house, but you're at risk of heartworm if you're not getting the proper prevention. You're at risk of fly bites on your ears and all those other issues that we see regularly from dogs that are out on chains. But also that if you've got a dog in a crate, when you come home, you're more likely to open the crate and let them out and they're wandering around the house with you. Whereas in a lot of cases, and not all, but in a lot of cases, if you've got a dog on a chain and you come home, you say, oh yeah, there's the dog, I'll go get them later. And you go out once a day and you give them the food, and then you don't give them that social interaction. And for dogs, social interaction is so important to them. Dogs are pack animals. If they don't have a pack, that's why you build up that aggression when they're on a chain, because they're not getting that proper socialization. So I think there's a lot of differences, although clearly supporting any bylaw that would limit crating to 12 hours a day would be something that we would definitely support as well.
Thank you. You have to excuse me, I'm not much of a public speaker, and this is a little bit of a surprise to me. I do support this anti-tethering. The time limit 12 hours that you guys proposed earlier, I think is more than fair. Socialization for a dog is key. Dogs that aren't socialized do not know how to react around people properly. And if they don't have that social interaction, there can be a tendency to not know what to do when a child or a person does come at them quickly. And sometimes if they don't know what to do, they'll go back into one of their basic instincts, and that's to defend themselves. And that's sometimes where some of the bites might come from. I was also asked by Ms. Bondi about if I believe that chaining a dog would make them aggressive. If dog doesn't have proper socialization, there is a possibility of that. And also if there is a predisposition to aggressive behavior, this can sometimes, not in all cases, bring that out or multiply that a little bit. That being said, with all this too, the socialization and the human interaction, with limiting the amount of time the dog is tethered, would, I think, greatly reduce on a lot of neglect cases and give the Humane Society officers, myself, more powers to help and hopefully head off some of the neglect that might be out there. Thank you.
Any questions of our delegation? No. Councillor Baker.
So, Your Worship, not a question, just a procedural thing. Now that Ms. DeNova is here, maybe, because I think she's going to speak on these issues, is that the issues that you're speaking on? So I would like to hear first from everybody, and then we have enough input to maybe make some comments at that point in time. Then we could...
Well, do we have any questions of the delegation here presently? No? Okay. Thank you very much. So we're not going to deal with the bylaw until after. Okay. Now, our first delegation is Diane DeNova, who's here to speak on the dog bylaw. Right, Diane? Thank you very much. If you press your button there, purple one will turn it on, and we get your 5 minutes.
Are we good?
Thank you.
Okay. I guess two of the areas, they pretty well covered the tether thing. I'm pretty confident that they've given a good coverage of the tether issue. The two areas that I wanted to talk about in particular were the definition of service dog and service animal. And I guess the first issue is that it's currently now that what they're referencing is the Blind Persons Rights Act. Well, that was repealed and replaced by the Persons with Disability Rights Act. So that covers all people with disabilities that need the services of, unfortunately in the older legislation they refer to it as guide dog, but what they really mean is service dog. And actually at this time, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, they're actually reviewing the whole definitions of service dogs and service animals and what rights and responsibilities go along with that. That's actually policy people are meeting right now. And in, I think about a few weeks to a month, they'll be asking for public input. So if anyone in administration would like to give some input, or Humane Society or whatever, that's a good time to do it. I guess the concern I had was when we're looking at a service dog or a service animal, in our bylaws and legislation, it really addresses the issue of care and control. But when you're dealing with a service animal, that could be anything. That is, any animal that someone with a disability needs with regards to accessibility or to provide a service for it. And so that's why I thought at some point in here we'd like to see something that attests to care and control. It's probably an extreme example, but I'll use it. If someone wanted to had a service animal that was a snake and felt that they felt comfortable with it around their neck or on their body, and it helped ameliorate some sort of mental health issues or somewhat, you can see where there'd be a question of care and control in that sense. And so I was just looking for something around that. The other issue had to do with that I noticed for service animal, you're depending on the Accessibility for Ontario with Disability Act definition. And like I said, that's under review right now, but I would like to see some sort of care and control within that. The other thing that I would like to propose is that when we license dogs in the municipality of Essex, that we require proof of rabies vaccines. And there's a number of benefits to this. And the first one would be that in order to get a rabies vaccine, you have to be seen by a vet. And there's many animals in this municipality that never see a vet in their entire life. And it's not an expensive vaccine. I believe the current protocol is 2 years in a row and then every 3 years. The cost is about $11 to $13. And if we were looking at having on-leashed areas or dog parks with regards to risk management, it seems to make sense to license dogs that are legal. So that is, anyone who has an animal that doesn't have current rabies in the province of Ontario has an illegal animal. And as a municipality, I appreciate that we're generating revenue from the licenses, but do we really want to license an animal that's technically illegal? And when it comes to dog parks, if you've done your due diligence, that is by requiring that the animals who you license are legal, then if there is a bite or whatnot, then you're sort of covered. Not covered, but at least you've done your due diligence. And I have to say that if rabies protocol has to be implemented after a dog bite, it's very costly. I believe the price for just the medications is about $2,500, and it necessitates about between 5 and 7 visits to the doctor, and I can assure you it's very painful. So it makes sense to have give animals the opportunity to, one, have at least vet care every 3 years, and also it would make it easier as well when there are dog bites, or to identify animals if they have a medical history attached with their dog tags. And the other thing that I'd like to see with dog tags, again, getting back to service dogs, is that in the legislation with regards to the Persons with Disabilities Act, it clearly outlines the extent of training and licensing that those dogs are required to have. And I'd like to see it sort of amplified or embraced in the bylaws as well. So if someone wants to register their service dog or license it within the town of Essex, there is easy ways for them to obtain valid identification, and the Attorney General actually provides identification, or they can show proof of training, and the legislation actually lists the recognized training facilities where these specialized dogs have to be serviced. The other issue that I was looking at is dog kennels. And
Ms. DeNova, your 5 minutes is up, so if you could just give us a kind of a wrap-up here, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just quickly say that I believe that we should increase the fees for dog kennels. They're the ones making a living by producing these dogs that contributed to some of the dogs that end up at our shelters. And also, I would like to suggest that hunting dogs be microchipped, because their collars are often taken off them when they go hunting, and I think it would be in their best interest if they had a microchip, and that way they could be identified if they ever strayed or were lost. And I guess that's all I have. I wanted to talk about foster dogs, but I guess I'll have to do that another day, unless you will indulge me a few minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Vokes?
I want to make sure that Mrs. DeNova, is that correct in saying that? Gets the opportunity to speak to all the issues. I'm the guy who just said 5 minutes ago, send her a letter because she's not showing up, and here she is. So I'm not going to discard her concerns. I'm going to request that council give her 5 more minutes to talk. From what I understand, she had 2 issues. And she's here. I said before you come in, I wish you would come instead, and I can't understand why you're not showing up. So now that you're here, I feel as though it's fair to let you speak to the 2 issues you had. So I'm going to ask council to put a motion forward that Mrs. DeNova, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, gets the opportunity to speak on the two issues she has, because I want to hear them. I said that 5 minutes ago. I want to hear it. You're here, I'm going to listen to it.
We have a motion, seconder, Councillor Bondi. Any questions to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Continue, young lady.
The issue with regards to fostering animals, they were talking about allowing more than 3 dogs in the residence. It's my position that in a residence, 3 dogs...
If I could, I want to make sure that your second issue, both issues are dogs.
Correct.
Because the first issue you just talked to as it relates to the animal control.
Right.
I believe you had another issue as it relates to council,
It was dog parks.
whatever it may be.
It's dog parks, right?
Okay,
Is that what it's, no, what is it about? The dog parks?
sure.
Sure, okay. Thank you very much.
Well, I guess the one issue that I was looking for...
Can you just hang on? Councillor Baker has a question.
Just a point of order, what I want to clear up is Mr. Nova is here on, I believe, is it 2 issues? Is it, you have 2 forms in for delegation, is that correct? Maybe,
Yes.
Cheryl?
Through you, Your Worship, initially there were 4. As of today, she spoke to Mrs. Hunter and was going to withdraw 2 of them. She wanted to speak to 2 issues.
What are the 2 issues?
The one was bylaw 1236, and the second issue was dog parks, correct?
So we've provided an extension on the 1236, and that's what she's speaking to now. Is
No,
that
now
correct?
now she's talking towards dog parks. She had 4 items here,
Yes.
2 and 3 she's talking to, the other 2 she's
Right.
knocked off.
Her second issue, Councillor Baker, if I could, if I understand it right, was one was 1236 and one was dog parks, making 2 issues. Yes, so we'll hear the dog park issue if we could, please.
Exactly. The other 2, Councillor Baker, that we have on the agenda, she's not speaking to those 2. Thank you very much. Yep.
Am I good? That we're looking at, now that we have bylaw officers, animal protection or animal control officers that are now enforcing the off-leash law in a number of public areas, I believe that it's important for the municipality to identify as soon as possible areas that are safe, that large breed dogs particularly can be exercised off-leash. What is happening right now down in the village is that dogs that were regularly run at the children's playground or along the beach or wherever now are being walked across County Road 50 and let loose at Gorski's farm. And unfortunately, the farm isn't fenced in. It's close to a busy highway, and this sets up a whole nother issue with regards to traffic safety, animal safety, public safety. And for example, I believe that there's areas right now that we could temporarily designate as dog parks or off-leash areas. For example, I was suggesting one down near the lake beside the church there. There's a greenway that's already fenced on each side, put up a bit of orange fencing on either end, expedite some rules with regards to the dog parks, and have an opportunity for otherwise compliant citizens in the community to exercise their dogs. And otherwise, you're just going to have people being creative with what to do next. And I guess when there isn't alternatives, then people get exceptionally creative, and then it creates other issues that have to be dealt with. So I am asking that we either expedite looking at dog parks or identifying them, or even just getting temporary ones set up and getting a good set of rules. And going back to the old, what I spoke about before with the dog tag, dog license, is that if only licensed owners are using them, and then it's enforceable. And then as well, with regards to risk management, that I recommend that it's used at your own risk from that point on. That, you know, beyond the town's responsibility to provide a clean, safe area, and that the dogs be licensed and have update rabies vaccination. Beyond that, it really has to be a use at your own risk. And so that's basically what I wanted to talk about with regards to dog park. I think there's available, and again, this would be more, I guess, Director of Doug there, with regards to possibly identifying some of these underused green spaces that possibly we could identify and set up temporary sites. And the other thing with the temporary site too is that we could work out problems. You know what I mean? We could set it up and we'll see what kind of issues come up with the sites, with the social interaction or whatever. And I think we just have to start somewhere. But to not have an option right now, I'm witnessing a lot of creative ways people are finding to let their large dogs off leash. So I'd like that addressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of council members? Councilor Baker?
Thank you, Your Worship. So my question is relative to your first part of your presentation. We're going to go to administration and ask this, maybe through Your Worship to Donna. I'm just trying to remember, because we've had some revisions to the bylaw that's being presented tonight, the consolidated bylaw. Are we asking for requirements for rabies vaccine for our dog tags?
Through you, Your Worship, it's not going to be a requirement that they have to have it. It is going to be more, we'll record the information if they do have it, so that we have it in the event that there's a vicious dog or dangerous dog attack.
Okay, so follow up to that then, and this question may be to Melanie Coulter, if she can come back up, because while we provide a program for spay and neutering, and I want to know if there's any program funding out there that would cover this, because now we come up to an issue of a cost. I'm not sure what the costs are. It seems to me that it might be a good idea that we have this as a program, because what I'm hearing, and I want to hear from Melanie on this, we can license, or we can have a dog tag for a dog, but we don't know if they then had rabies or not. So we're licensing them for, I think having this extra safety component might make sense. But again, it comes down to, is there programs available? Is it a funding issue? What would stop that from us asking that to be done? Maybe through Your Worship to Ms. Coulter.
Yes, sir.
Provincial law does require that the owner of a domestic animal vaccinate them against rabies. So that is a provincial requirement. There are provisions under the College of Veterinarians Act for rabies clinics. They're a little bit complicated to set up, but veterinarians can offer rabies clinics where the vaccine can be obtained without a full vet visit. Early this year, the Humane Society worked with a number of veterinary hospitals to offer a vaccine program where dogs could go in and for $50 get their rabies and a DA2PP vaccine, which is generally a savings from the usual rate, which usually tends to be between about $50 and $100 by the time you include the exam. So, but that was a 2-week thing. So normally, there is a cost. The province, I am aware, is looking into different ways to increase access to rabies vaccines. They're looking at some programs to not require the full exam as part of a rabies vaccine. So there are some efforts underway provincially. I guess from a perspective of a municipality, the challenge would be, this is a provincial legislation. Is rabies a huge issue locally? Well, there hasn't been a case of rabies in a terrestrial mammal since 1994. So this is not an issue that I would say would be an urgent issue on council's agenda, simply because it's not something that there's a lot of cases being seen. There are quarantines required, but that's the same across the province. So I think if you limited dog licenses and you required a rabies vaccine to sell a dog license, you'd reduce the numbers of dogs being licensed, and then you'd have fewer dogs having that identification be able to get home when they get lost. So there's balances, but there are programs provincially in progress to try to increase access and increase the number of dogs vaccinated against rabies.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Your Worship, while Ms. Coulter's still up. So what I'm hearing is it's a provincial mandate, correct, to have it, but yet there is not any initiative to support it.
Yes.
And yet we haven't had any recorded cases since when?
There hasn't been a case of rabies in a terrestrial mammal since 1994 in Windsor or Essex.
Yet, however, if somebody gets bit by a dog, they have to go through the rabies protocol, which is costly and painful.
Not following every bite. Typically, if there's been a bite by any mammal, the health unit is going to require that the animal be quarantined. That quarantine is required regardless of if the dog is vaccinated or not. So even if the dog is vaccinated against rabies, the quarantine is still imposed when there's been a bite. That's a 10-day quarantine. The health unit officer will look at the dog at the start of the quarantine, at the end of the quarantine. If they don't have signs of rabies at the end of the quarantine, they're released and the person doesn't have to go through any prophylactic vaccinations. That only happens if the dog can't be found, or if the if the dog had died before the end of the quarantine, they could be tested. So it's only a very limited cases where the person would go through vaccines, generally when the dog can't be found.
Okay, thanks. So that gives me better information on that, the requirement, not that we need it. So I'm going to ask if I can still use this time to have a couple other questions I have while Ms. Coulter's up there. The issue of fostering was on my list as well. I just want to start out by saying I really appreciate the work that's been done on this bylaw. It's consolidating, it's bringing everything together, so it's something we need to do. It makes a lot of sense. At that time, it allows us to open up new language, and I think that's what we're discussing tonight, to get a better understanding. The issue of fostering, and I brought this up, I think, and thank you, I think you included that in there, which was good, is to notify the neighbors that the fostering may be happening. I'm not sure I understand the principle behind fostering. Is it a capacity issue? Because I would like to see that maybe that somebody is designated as a person that fosters, as opposed to it being ad hoc as it seems to be here. And I need some clarity. It seems to be that maybe you just require a letter from the Humane Society or some other shelter organization that allows you to foster, and it doesn't say for how long. I don't think it has it. Does it have a frequency now or length of time? Okay, that's good. But I'm wondering, why this can just be ad hoc, and what are the principles behind it? So maybe I'll ask Ms. Coulter, what's the reasoning that we want to have fostering in this? I'm just concerned with a number of people propping up and saying, oh, I'll take care of another dog, and we end up having 5 or 6 or 7 under a fostering program. I'm not sure what the criteria is for that.
Well, there is a limit that's been included in this version of the bylaw to 90 days. And there is a requirement that there be a foster agreement with an organization. So we would foster a dog in certain situations. So sometimes we'd foster a dog if they had been at the shelter for a longer period of time. We wanted to just get them out, get them into a home setting, and see how they behave in a home setting. Sometimes it's for socialization, so if there's a behavior issue, we'd like to assess and see how the dog reacts in a home setting. Sometimes it's a medical issue. So, for example, if a dog has had an amputation, they may go to a foster home to recover. Heartworm treatment takes about 2.5 months to go through the treatment. That is best done in a foster home if possible. And moms and puppies. So a mom comes in very pregnant. If we can find a foster home, then she can go there rather than having her puppies in a kennel. She's having them in a home setting. So there'd be a number of different instances. Puppies tend to need a lot of socialization, so it's good for them to be in foster for a period of time. So there'd be specific reasons why a dog would be fostered to someone, and the agreement would list the reason for foster, the expected return date, and as Donna indicated, she had asked what the maximum length of foster would be, and typically I can't see a situation where a foster would be, barring some extraordinary situation, where a foster would be longer than 90 days.
So is there a requirement to be a fostering individual?
A person, to be one of our volunteer fosters, a person would basically have to talk to our adoption manager, go through some information about the foster program and about the procedures in the foster program. We used to have a training course that our fosters would go to, but in order to, especially for cat fosters, to get more cat fosters, which we need, we shorten that program. So basically they will meet with our adoption manager and then become one of our foster volunteers. They'd be on a list of fosters, so if we had a dog that needed foster, we'd send out an email to our list of dog fosters and say that Fluffy Rover needs a foster for 2 weeks. He's recovering from surgery. He gets along with other dogs, he gets along with other cats, is anyone available? And they would respond, and then we would sign a foster agreement with them for 2 weeks, and then he would come back and go up for adoption.
Okay, so I'm hearing it's somewhat regulated, so it's not just, can I put up my hand and I want to be a foster, can I do that?
you would have to meet with our adoption manager, and it would have to be a dog that we
You'd want me to, for sure.
Yes. Well, and we would want to make sure there was a reason for the dog to be in foster.
Okay, thank you. So my other topic that I want to address, and while you're there, is with regards to the wording that's been changed to the leash and not on a leash. It says, under the immediate charge and control of a responsible person by means of a leash. I need to hear, what about the issue, how does somebody exercise and run their dog, if in fact they've been chained up for less than an hour or less than 8 hours, if they've been crated for a while, how do you exercise and run your dog if they have to be on the leash all the time? Maybe I'll hear from the experts and then maybe get some comment on this.
Certainly you can run with the dog on a leash. If you have a 6-foot leash, that does provide some good room for the dog to run. You could run with the dog, or at least for the dog to move around. There are off-leash areas as well where dogs can go to run. So there are opportunities.
Well, that's my issue right there. The length of the leash and my ability to run with a dog at this point in time, or I can't, but if there's somebody who's not as able, how do they exercise their dog? And when we don't have those runoff areas right now, we don't have them yet. So how does one exercise a dog if our language, so maybe we can just look at this language, it says, where it says, under the immediate charge and control of a responsible person by means of a leash. So it specifically says that. So I'm hearing it's off your property. What if they don't have property big enough to run your... just where can somebody exercise their dog when there's not a dog park right now?
Sonner, you have an answer?
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have an answer to that specific big question because we obviously don't have dog parks right now, but you have to provide some definition of what running at large means. And running at large, for all intents and purposes, and this is common wording, means it's not on a leash and it's not with a responsible person.
There are opportunities if your dog needs running. A lot of dogs will be, if they're getting a good walk, they will be okay with that. With fewer opportunities to run, they may not run daily, but if they are getting a good long walk daily to be able to smell other dogs' smells and stretch their legs, get some movement, you could go to an off-leash area less frequently. There are people that will come in and will walk your dogs or run your dogs for you, and there's also dog daycares that you have the opportunity. Certainly, having more dog parks is a good thing. It provides more access and more ability for dogs to be exercised, but there are options for people, a number of options for people to exercise their dog if they want to have an off-leash option.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? I just may have a couple here. Mr. Novo mentioned the price of a dog kennel. I imagine the town sets that price, Donna, do we? Like we have someone wants a...
Through you, Your Worship, yes, we set that price. I compared that price to across the county, and most of the other municipalities in the county are well below our kennel pricing. Ours is probably right now with the graduated is going to be one of the higher. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. I have one other one. She made reference to a temporary dog park. How quickly could we do that, and like legal problems, would it be a quick fix or would it be a lengthy one?
Through you, Your Worship, we're currently doing research from the Dog Park Committee in Essex Center. So we have some background information, but it's something I'd like to bring back for council with their recommendation and show our due diligence.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. Final comment, Mrs. Denova.
I just wanted to apologize to council for being late. I actually had to take a dog to Leamington after I picked my son up in LaSalle, so it's been the fast track, and I guess my message didn't get clearly that I was hoping to get here, and that's why I shortened down the number of issues. But I do have more to say, but we'll have to do it another day. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, looking for a motion to receive the report. Councillor Bondi, or presentation. Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bowman. Any questions? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Reports from administration. Oh, we're going to deal with the bylaw? Okay. Yep. Okay. Bylaw number 1236 being a bylaw to regulate, license, and control animals within the municipal boundaries of the town of Essex. To be read today a third time, past this 18th day of November, if we so desire. Councillor Bondi. Move the bylaw. Supported by Councillor Scott. Any questions to the motion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Oh, in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Donna.
Through you, Your Worship, I had provided an option for 8 hours in the bylaw as it stands now, or for taking out a time limit. As we were speaking about this, I said we could also change it to any other number of hours that council deemed appropriate. The bylaw will be revised to reflect that.
Presently, it's 8 in here. Councillor Votes and then Councillor.
If I could, I think the concerns of some as indicated by Councillor Milosh, that it would be more palatable if we recognize a 12-hour consideration. And when I supported it, I was under the impression, Councillor Bondi, that was there. And I don't know how we get that in there, whether it takes a motion or addendum to put it in there, but I would strongly suggest we put that 12-hour consideration in there, and because that's, to be quite frank with you, that's what I thought I was supporting as a result of the discussions we were having previous to.
Okay. Councillor Bondi.
I just want to say I'll support the bylaw with the 12-hour limit. And I know the bylaw isn't perfect for everybody, but it's a start. And I know we still have some tweaking to do, but I believe this bylaw has some time-sensitive issues in it with the expiring of dog tags for December. So that's, and I don't want to spend any more time on this right now either. Like, we've kind of beat the dead horse, so I support the bylaw. And if we have to come back and tweak it and add some things and take some things away, then we can.
Okay, so the motion is to make it a 12-hour. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Votes. Oh. You're right. Friendly amendment. Right on. And by Councillor Votes. Original message, friendly amendment. What's the first one? So we'll go back to him. Yeah. Friendly amendment to John. Okay. Now where's that? Any questions? All in favor of that motion? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.